Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching suspicion that something is off with the woman you trust most, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That uneasy feeling in your chest that makes your mind race at 2 a.m., questioning every word, every action, every "I love you," she said. Today, I'm going to expose something most men will never realize until it's too late: the hidden places where women start cheating without you noticing. And before you roll your eyes, know this isn't about paranoia. It's about awareness, clarity, and understanding the subtle dynamics of human behavior. Here's the brutal truth. Most men think infidelity starts with obvious signs: late nights, secretive phone calls, suspicious text messages. But by the time you see those, it's already a deep pattern. The real starting points are places you'd never expect. They are invisible, ordinary, and often dismissed as harmless. Women, just like men, are wired to seek attention, validation, and excitement. But the difference is in how quietly these patterns form, often without leaving a trace until the damage is done. One of the first places this begins is online. Social media and seemingly innocent apps are a minefield. A casual comment, a lingering like, a direct message from someone she claims is just a friend. These are all entry points. It starts subtle, emotionally, not physically. And men, distracted by daily life, work stress, or their own distractions, rarely notice. Another overlooked zone is the workplace. Women, like men, spend a significant portion of their life at work. Professional relationships often become emotional safe zones. A smile, shared laughter, a colleague who listens more attentively than you do, this is where trust begins to erode, often without any physical betrayal at first. Emotional infidelity is the precursor to physical, and this is where men fall behind. Finally, you have to understand your own role. Men who are disconnected, emotionally absent, or complacent often unintentionally push women toward these hidden spaces. Attraction isn't just physical, it's about attention, connection, and validation. Ignoring these areas is like leaving a window open in a storm and wondering why the rain got inside. So, stay alert, because awareness is your first line of defense. If you fail to notice these zones, you may wake up one day to a betrayal you never even saw coming. Now let's talk about the subtle signs in these hidden spaces, because it's rarely about grand gestures or obvious betrayals. Infidelity often starts emotionally, long before it becomes physical. The places where women begin cheating unnoticed are usually quiet, seemingly innocent corners of life that men dismiss because they appear harmless. But these small openings, over time, can create emotional distance, which is the breeding ground for betrayal. One of the most common unnoticed spaces is her phone or personal device. But it's not just secret messages or deleted chats. It's the patterns of attention. Is she constantly texting someone when you're together? Does she suddenly become protective of her screen or dismissive when you ask about it? The messages themselves might not matter initially. It's the emotional energy she invests in someone else that begins the shift. You see, emotional infidelity is more dangerous than physical because it builds connection that competes with yours, slowly eroding intimacy without a single argument or fight. Another overlooked space is her friend groups and social outings. Men often underestimate how much influence her social circles have. A fun night out with friends isn't just casual. It's where emotional validation happens, where attention from others fuels feelings that may eventually replace yours. This is especially true if you're disconnected, if she's craving excitement, conversation, or empathy that she isn't receiving from you. These spaces become fertile ground for hidden attachments. Workplace connections, as I mentioned before, are also incredibly subtle. Lunches, coffee breaks, after-work drinks, all of these seem normal. But when combined with emotional disconnection at home, they become entry points for emotional intimacy with someone else. The key here is attention: who she is sharing her thoughts with, who listens without judgment, who makes her feel understood. This is often where men lose the early warning signs because they focus on the tangible, flirting, cheating, or overt disloyalty, while the emotional bond grows quietly. Even online communities, forums, and interest-based apps are hotspots for unnoticed emotional cheating. A shared hobby, common goal, or admiration from someone outside the relationship can subtly shift her priorities. And while it may seem harmless at first, it slowly rewires her emotional investment, sometimes without her even realizing it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. These invisible spaces don't demand confrontation or conflict. They are silent, patient, and persistent. And if you don't pay attention to them, they will quietly pull her heart away, step by step. Think about it. Are you actively engaged in these spaces of her life, or are you letting someone else occupy them without notice? Keep that thought as we uncover the next hidden zones where these connections flourish. Now let's dig deeper into the third type of unnoticed spaces, the ones that hide in plain sight. These are the areas that most men never consider a threat because they appear so ordinary, so mundane. Yet they are where emotional distance widens, where her attention can drift without immediate alarm bells. One of the most common is the commute and daily routines. It sounds trivial, but think about it. Long drives to work, train rides, or even gym sessions. These are moments of private reflection and potentially private conversation. If she's constantly on her phone during these times, laughing, sharing stories, or venting to someone else, emotional attachment is being built without your awareness. You're asleep to the process because it's hidden within routine, disguised as harmless habit. Next is the digital footprint, not just social media likes or comments, but the subtle patterns. Does she follow someone excessively? Do her stories or posts hint at inside jokes with someone new? Emotional cheating thrives here because it's easy, low risk, and disconnected from your immediate reality. The mind begins to associate excitement, validation, and attention with someone else, even if nothing physical has happened. Men often dismiss these small signals, thinking, it's just social media. But the truth is, the heart doesn't differentiate between digital and physical attention when it comes to bonding. Another underestimated zone is the shared interests she pursues outside the relationship. Maybe it's a class, a hobby group, or a fitness community. At first glance, it's completely innocent, but when another person becomes the consistent emotional recipient of her stories, successes, frustrations, and laughter, a parallel intimacy begins. The human brain craves connection, and when it's found elsewhere, the bond you share begins to weaken quietly, almost imperceptibly. Even the home environment can harbor these unnoticed shifts. Men often focus on arguments, cheating, or dramatic behaviors, but quiet disengagement is far more dangerous. Leaving her to occupy spaces alone without engagement, while she seeks validation or excitement from someone outside, creates fertile ground for unnoticed emotional cheating. A shared home doesn't equal shared attention. Proximity doesn't guarantee emotional fidelity. And here's the key. The danger of these spaces isn't in what's visible, it's in what's invisible. Emotional energy is being redirected subtly and persistently, while most men remain unaware. The problem isn't a single moment. It's the accumulation of small, unnoticed attachments that redefine her emotional priorities. Now, let's expose the fourth place, the one most men never even consider, because it challenges their perception of trust, the inner circle of her friendships. You see, emotional cheating rarely starts with a dramatic confession. It starts quietly, hidden in the laughter, in the shared experiences, in the people she surrounds herself with. Pay attention to who she spends her time with when you're not around. It's not about paranoia, it's about observing patterns. Does she have a friend who is too attentive, too available, too ready to offer a shoulder at exactly the moments you're busy or distracted? These relationships are often the gateways to emotional cheating because they provide validation, understanding, and excitement outside of your partnership. Men often dismiss these interactions because it's just a friend. But here's the truth. Women are wired for emotional connection first. A friendship that crosses emotional boundaries can quickly become more than just friendly. Then there's the subtle shift in communication style. Notice how her tone, her excitement, or even the frequency of messages change. If someone becomes the recipient of her inside jokes, her daily updates, or her secrets, she's forming a bond without even realizing the emotional dependency it creates. And when that bond fills a void you've left, be it attention, affirmation, or emotional presence, it becomes dangerous. Consider also the travel and leisure spots she frequents with others. Coffee shops, fitness classes, work events, or hobby meetups are innocuous on the surface. But repeated exposure to one person in these contexts creates opportunities for intimate conversations that erode the emotional exclusivity of your relationship. Men often ignore these because they feel secure at home or distracted by work, yet the invisible pattern is forming. Even the small gestures you overlook at home matter here. If she receives emotional support or flirtation from her friends, compliments on appearance, acknowledgement of intelligence, or subtle admiration, these micro-interactions reignite her desire for attention outside your bond. The key isn't in grand betrayals, it's in the consistent, unnoticed reinforcement that someone else values her in ways you haven't. Finally, understand this. Emotional cheating isn't always about intentional betrayal. It's often about neglect, unmet needs, and the invisible drift of emotional attention. The inner circle isn't inherently dangerous. It's how attention and energy are allocated. If you ignore the subtle cues of shifting priorities, the result is the same. Her heart begins to wander quietly, patiently, almost without notice. And here's the key. The danger of these spaces isn't in what's visible, it's in what's invisible. Emotional energy is being redirected subtly and persistently, while most men remain unaware. The problem isn't a single moment, it's the accumulation of small, unnoticed attachments that redefine her emotional priorities. Now let's uncover the fifth place, social media and the digital world, where the lines between innocent interaction and hidden desire blur almost invisibly. Men often underestimate this space because it seems harmless. A like here, a comment there, a private message that just friends send. But in reality, this is the modern playground of unnoticed infidelity, and many men are blind to the subtle manipulations happening right under their noses. Think about it. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and WhatsApp are designed to create attention loops. Every notification, every story view, every emoji exchange triggers a small dopamine rush, an emotional affirmation that someone else values her, notices her, and even admires her in ways that go unnoticed in daily life. These micro-affirmations are the emotional crack that grows into a canyon if left unobserved. Notice the patterns: late-night chats, disappearing notifications, or overly private conversations with someone you barely know. It's not always explicit flirting. Sometimes it's validation, humor, or emotional intimacy she isn't getting at home. That's why this place is so dangerous. It feels harmless to her, yet it sows the seeds of emotional distance, slowly pulling her heart towards someone else. Then consider the curated image she presents online. Photos, captions, and even stories are subtle signals designed to attract attention, not always from you. Men often dismiss this as vanity, but in truth, it's a way to seek admiration outside the safe boundaries of the relationship. And when a third party consistently engages with these signals, it's no longer just harmless interaction, it becomes a silent emotional affair. Finally, we arrive at the sixth place, the emotional blind spots within her own circle, where women often begin cheating unnoticed. This isn't about shady strangers or clandestine rendezvous. It's about the people closest to her influence her thoughts and feelings subtly, often without her realizing it. Friends, co-workers, even family members can become conduits for emotional drift, planting seeds of doubt, curiosity, or attraction that slowly erode loyalty. Notice how often men overlook this. They focus on physical spaces, bars, online chats, vacations. But the real danger is in conversation, shared experiences, and emotional bonding with others. A casual co-worker who listens more than you, a friend who validates complaints about you, someone who mirrors her thoughts and understands her frustrations. These interactions create an invisible emotional affair long before a physical act occurs. Women, like all humans, seek understanding, appreciation, and emotional resonance. When a man fails to provide these consistently, others who do, even subtly, can fill the void. You may not see it, you may dismiss it as harmless friendship, but human psychology doesn't operate in absolutes. Emotional bonds form incrementally, and when left unchecked, they can shift attraction, loyalty, and desire away from you without you ever noticing until it's too late.